good, scheduled. Saludos and salutations, Broncos Country, and welcome to another exciting episode of Broncos Talk. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go over the... Oh, hang on. I just got an invitation. Bronco Libre joining us live on TikTok. But ladies and gentlemen, today, Libre and I are going to give our predictions about the upcoming free agency period. We are going to let you guys know what our thoughts are, who we believe the Broncos are going to go out and target. And then next week, we're going to come and we'll go over the results. But ladies and gentlemen, Libre and I are so excited. We cannot wait to sit down and talk to you guys. Anything and everything that's all Broncos, which is what we do best here on this show. So make sure you get that food ready, popcorn, candy, whatever it is. Get that beer, get cold and ready to drink because here we go. What's happening, Broncos Country? Welcome to another exciting episode of Broncos Talk. I am your host, Adan Diaz, and joining me to my left or right, depending on which way you guys are watching us, is my co-host, Bronco Libre. Libre, how you doing tonight, my friend?
What's happening? I'm doing well.
Just so you guys know, that's the first thing Libre says to me every time he comes into the room. Whether we're doing this show or Viva los Broncos, is what's happening, Broncos Country?
What's happening?
And it's so contagious that he's got me saying it now. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. We have an excellent show for you guys here today. We are going to, again, just to reiterate in case you're just joining us, we are going to give our predictions as to who Libre and I believe that the Broncos are going to target in free agency, and we're going to see who comes closest with the results of part 2. This is part 1, the free agency prediction, and next week will be part 2 of that same prediction show where we go over our results. I have a feeling that Libre and I and a lot of people in Broncos Country are going to be shocked, ladies and gentlemen. I just have that putting that out there. Also, shout out to all the people watching us on TikTok. If you guys are, please make sure you give us a follow and a like. We are trying to grow our viewership any and everywhere that we can get our voices heard around Broncos Country. But as you guys know, in case this is your first time here or you're a seasoned veteran, there's a couple things we have to get out of the way first. So first and foremost, we like to ask you to show your support for us here on the Orange and Blue Network. So we're asking you please subscribe, share, comment, and like on any and all things that you see here, especially here on the show. Your support is greatly appreciated through every single part of this network. So this is a simulcast, which means we are also broadcasting on the MHRT networks. So make sure you please subscribe, share, comment, and like on all of their shows as well, because they have a lot of great programming. The beautiful thing about doing a simulcast, ladies and gentlemen, is even if we are not your cup of tea, totally fine. There is something for everybody. But hopefully Libre and I are doing just a good enough job to keep you guys coming back for more. For any business inquiries, you can email at broncostalk2020@gmail.com. If you'd like to hit us up on any of our socials, they are listed right there on the bottom. Mine is at a 6'10" Mexican. Libre's is at Bronco Libre 5280, where you can hit us up on Twitter. Give us a follow, share any comments, ideas, or whatever you guys want to talk about. We're always down and happy to talk about any and all things football. Also, for any audio listeners, if you're listening to us after the fact, please make sure 5-star ratings. If you do give us reviews, please make sure you screenshot them and send it to me, Libre, and myself, so we can give you the proper shout out and thank you for your support. Also, we would like to say thanks to the sponsor of today's show, which is Dubby. Ladies and gentlemen, Dubby is what you need for your energy of the day. Now, a lot of people are accustomed to, drinking coffee or soda or energy drinks. And I'm pretty sure you guys have heard a million times that stuff is not healthy for us. And that's what W comes in, because W is all the good without all the bad. And what do I mean by that? Well, basically, their formula was formulated to give you focus and energy with no jitters or crash. Their formula also contains vitamins, amino acids, and nootropics, including their patented neurofactor formula. Basically, it's no calories, no sugar, no maltodextrin, no fillers, and no artificial colors. Ladies and gentlemen, all the good without all the bad. And just to show you how nice of a guy Johnny Baki is, the owner of the Orange and Blue Network, co-owner, I should say, he and the guys over at the Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue podcast, which is every Tuesday, want to give you guys 10% off when you check out using the code NRWOB10. So make sure you use that code to get 10% off at checkout on your W order. So shout out once again to the guys over at Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue for the 10% off. And also shout out to W for being a loyal sponsor of this show and all the shows here on the network.
Oh my gosh, I'm so tired already.
I swear, I do this every week, and I'm surprised people don't get tired of me saying it.
Trust me, I do. That's why I'm tired. No, I'm just kidding. Just joking. We love you, Dubby.
You're tired for me? Oh, man. But, Libre, today was a pretty action-packed day in the NFL for it being an off-season day. Just for the news that we've been hearing all over the place about certain players that are not going to be coming back to their respective teams. So there is going to be a lot of chatter in the next coming day or days about where certain players might go. And a lot of fans are just foaming at the mouth in terms of just picturing that player playing for their team. So again, that's why I thought that today would be a great day for us to start, picking players. But I want to hear your thoughts. What do you think about everything that we've heard so far in terms of players about to enter, free agency and going to other teams?
For me, like I've always said, I'm always a person that's rooting for the name that's on the front of the jersey and never the back of the jersey, because things change. And again, you have to look at it as a business. Yes, you might have your favorite players, you have all this, but again, this week leading up to the actual free agency itself is one of the most busiest times in the NFL during the offseason itself. You're hearing players that have been with teams for over 10 years, very popular players itself. This is the time where they're just trying to save their careers. I feel like the team is probably done with them, but it's just like in the long run as well, it's exciting to hear like some of these names that come up and some of these names that you think, oh, these guys would work here, perfect here in our situation, in this offense or in this defense or this special team itself. And that's one thing that makes this sport so great. And I know a lot of people don't like the salary cap part of it, but I feel like the salary cap itself helps keep the NFL and all the teams competitive at any given time. Like, you can have a bad team. Look at the Commanders, what they did the year before and what they were able to accomplish this year, getting all the way to the NFC Championship game, So that's what I love about the NFL. You can talk about the Major League Baseball. They have a salary cap, but guess what? The teams don't follow it. They pay that luxury tax. It's same with the NBA. They have that same type of salary cap, but they don't look at it as the way the NFL does, because they all like to pay that luxury tax is what they call it. But seeing some of these names that are starting to pop up, I would like to see some of these guys out here, in Denver. Would it work? That's what George Payton is scheduled to go out there and say, can we get this individual in here at a good price? And can he work within our system itself and with the coaching staff that we currently have as well?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that 100%. But you guys also have to remember, ladies and gentlemen, that just as the Broncos are looking to add players, there are players that are going to possibly be on their way out.
Yep.
Before we get started at our predictions, there is one, excuse me, one thing I read that's a possibility, and I read that supposedly the Broncos were interested in keeping Javonte Williams on this team in terms of, I'm guessing, maybe a starter. Now, I do have mixed feelings about that because Libre and I have come on here before and we said that we are pretty much done with Javonte. And,
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel, basically, I don't feel that bringing him back will do anything for the running game in Denver because it didn't do anything for the running game last year. Even if the Broncos go out and improve their offensive line, uh, somehow, I just don't think that Javante is the player he used to be. Now, again, I don't know if it's because he's scared to run like he used to run before, like a wild Mustang, but it's just he's so conservative. He's taken such a huge step back, and I just don't see it. So I don't know where Broncos management can look at his tape from last season and say, we need to keep this guy. I just don't see it. So if they're doing it out of sentiment, then they kind of have to snap out of it because, this is a business. At the end of the day, the Broncos need to excel and they need to get rid of the pieces that aren't helping them excel, that they're, on the contrary, holding them back. So for me, as much as I like Javante, and yes, he's had his moments and his ups in Denver, he's had a lot of downs too. So Libre, I don't know if you agree with me, but I'm pretty much done with the whole Javante Williams experiment.
Like I feel the same way, but again, we see what's on the cover. So we're seeing what the media and what the team is allowing us to see as well. So I'm playing like a devil advocate here now.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of stuff that happens behind that closed door in that locker room in Dove Valley. We don't know like all the stuff what he has done, especially now that the season has ended. What has he been in there in the weight room? Has he been in rehab? Has he been in there trying to get that knee stronger? Again, we don't know this. And what's funny is I actually just watched the movie Draft Day the other day again. Which is a great movie if you guys haven't seen it. And it gives you a great insight about the NFL draft and what we're going to be seeing here. And it talks about one of their injured quarterbacks, that they ended up going in there, trading for the number one spot. And the number one prospect was the quarterback who's out there. And everyone thought that that's what they were going to go with. But because their current quarterback on the team was injured and all that, but then you go in halfway through the movie, the strength and conditioning coach goes, Coach, did you see what his name is Brian Drew? He goes, have you seen what Brian Drew has been in here? And man, he was in here. He actually squatted 400 bills. He's like, he did the squat 400 bills. And like the GM, which is Kevin Costner, he goes, yeah, I know, but what is he doing that? Like, but then he's also benched 250 pounds on the bench press 25 times. Like he goes, he's bigger, he's stronger, he's ready to go. And just that aspect, again, going to Javante, is we don't know, has he been making these strides of what he has done for that? And if so, like I can be behind it. But he has to prove that on the field for us as well. We've seen what he was able to do this last year, which, yes, there's a couple times he had some great plays, a couple, maybe one or two games. But for the rest of the season, he wasn't there. He wasn't there mentally, I feel like. But if he's there and that's what they're seeing and we're not seeing that, I'm going to say, by all means, let's do that. And guess what? If he's going to come back, he's going to do it for a discount. And he's going to stay here for a huge discount to stay within a system that he's familiar with and do that. If he wants to gamble on himself and he says, you know what, I'm actually going to go ahead and test the free agency part of it, he's not going to get the type of deal that he might get anywhere else. He might get a little bit more money than what the Broncos might be offering, which if that's the case, go for your money, go get that bag. But if we can get him and if he can stay here and if he can actually produce, I have no problem bringing him in. And again, that's one of these things. If we can bring him in, and if he doesn't do anything during the preseason where it matters the most, then he's one of those casualties right there before the season even starts.
I agree. I'm just glad that me and you were on the same page about that because I thought that maybe might get some pushback from you. I don't know.
Oh, no.
I don't know why, um, but I was just
Yeah.
writing down. So we're going to take turns predicting who we believe the Broncos are going to fill each position. Okay. So obviously we're going to start with quarterback. So I'll let you go first, Ray. Do you think the Broncos are going to get another quarterback to play behind Bo Nix? I personally don't think so. So I pretty much X'd it because I think that they're probably going to deal either Zach Wilson or um, what's his name? Yeah, Stidham. So, and I think they ride with just one of them. I have no idea why the hell they rode with 3 quarterbacks to begin with, but that's just my prediction. I don't think they go quarterback. What do you say?
Currently we only have Bo Nix. Bo Nix is our only quarterback that's under contract right now. So,
Mm-hmm.
if we're going to get anyone here, if anything, if we wait for the draft, if we get a late quarterback, say in the 5th, 6th round, that's the only time I see us getting a quarterback in the draft. But I feel like Zach Wilson will probably be re-signing with the Broncos just because we did trade for him, and he's the quote unquote for Sean Payton. He goes, "Well, I traded for you. Let's bring you back in. You're going to be the backup. You have to understand that, but you need to be ready to go if anything does happen to Bo."
So that's your pick, Zach Wilson.
Correct.
Okay. Well, to me, I still say no because I still consider him part of the team. So even if that does happen, if it's either him or Stidham, like I'm fine with it. If they decide to move on from both and do like you said, and go get Mr. Irrelevant or whatever in the late round and try to find a diamond in the rough, I'm okay with that too. But
Yeah.
I just don't see the Broncos going out and spending big money on another big backup quarterback like they did with Stidham.
Well, no, not at all. And I agree with you 100% on that. And then you're not going to go in and get a backup quarterback that's going to be making more money than your starting quarterback as well. Because Bo Nix is currently on a rookie deal, and you're not going to come in and sign a backup quarterback that's going to be making more money than he is. If you're going to go with the Sam Darnold, that's going to be coming available in the free agency itself. So you're not going to do that.
Agreed. I almost forgot to say hello to D-Rock. Thanks so much for being my high salute to you, my friend. Thanks so much for being a supporter of this show. I kept saying my high. So we're moving on to running back. So for me, as much as and we went over this like a month ago, Libre, and as much as I don't really think it's a right fit, his name keeps coming up in every single prediction. So I'm just gonna go with it, and I'm gonna say that if the Broncos do go for running, and we're gonna get the gift too, by the way. So the first one for me is Aaron Jones. I think that they're gonna go and get an Aaron Jones to come to Denver. What do you say?
For me, that just because his name has been put out there a lot with speculations of coming to Denver and wanting to play, I'll as well say Aaron Jones as well, just because that is the top running back right now in free agency. Again, you're also going to have to get it at the prices right. Yes, we have like the 12th out of the 32 teams, we're number 12 in cap space for this upcoming year. But if we're going to be able to use money otherwise in other places, we're not going to probably get Aaron Jones. But if bottom all without money aside and all that, yes, I would say Aaron Jones number 1.
Okay. I have mixed feelings on it, to be honest with you. Again, I'm not the highest. Like a part of me still thinks that if Ashton is in the 20th position when it's Denver's turn to pick, I think that they pick him. But I just I don't know. Like I wouldn't be mad if they actually pick Jones, but just for the simple fact that they probably will. I mean, is it the worst? I guess what they decide to pay him is also like the other big thing to consider.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be anything that at least I don't think so, that it should be something that breaks the bank. And no, I was just reading here, Libre, the list of free agents. Uh, Justin Fields is technically still a free agent, so I'm surprised to see him on his name on this list. I thought he was going to be the quarterback for the Steelers, since the Steelers said they were going to move on from Russell
Well,
Wilson.
well, so when they traded for him, he was on the last year of his contract as well. So that's why he's a
Mm-hmm.
free agency. That's why he's still a free agent as well. So again, he could be one of those guys that can still be going back to Pittsburgh. And again, Russell Wilson as well. He's also going to be a free agent as well. So, and he's also still, he's one of those X factors though, because whatever team's going to sign Russell Wilson, because of the amount of money that's still owed to him, teams are going to get a cheap deal with him. So they're just going to barely pay him the league minimum, while Denver's still paying out the rest of his guaranteed money for this upcoming season. So with that, I feel like if the Steelers want to do that, to continue having him in there for at least these 2 years and see where he goes from there, and to see if he is going to be the future for them. But I don't think he is. So anything with Russell, he's going to go to a team that he's going to be more as a serviceable back than a quarterback than anything, because they're going to get a cheap deal on him no matter what.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when you put it like that, then yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. But that's the reality of it right now, because why are you going to go out there and pay Russell Wilson 10 to 15 million a year when the Broncos are already doing that for you? So just pay him the league minimum, which will probably be about $1.5 million. And then, you got that for cheap. You have more money for a free agency to use somewhere else. And then the Broncos are stuck paying for that for the rest of his guaranteed money that he signed for.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just like this next one. It's gonna be, I believe, really shot in the dark. But I'm gonna say Nick Chubb. I think Nick Chubb.
Okay.
If the Broncos wanted a running back, that they would try to get Nick Chubb. And even though Chubb had a really bad, not the best season last year, I mean, coming off of that injury, you would expect something like that. But maybe, just maybe, with the Browns being desperate enough that they might want to deal Chubb away while he still has some worth. Because if he plays again exactly like he did last year, this year, then his worth is really going to be down, and then he's going to be one of those free agents that not many teams are going to want to take a chance on. So I'm going to say Nick Chubb for my second prediction pick. What do you say, Libre?
Just like how you were talking about that, we're just looking at a Javonte Williams 2.0, because that's exactly what it is. And again, I also go back to when Adrian Peterson, like several years ago, when he tore his ACL and he was only out for 9 months, and then he was back in the league. And then what did he do? I think he won MVP that year or something like that. He just went off, like he was just crazy, still super good. But for me, I think if anything, if I'm going to go for another player, I am thinking probably Najee Harris, just because of his age as well. He's going to be somebody that is going to be, hopefully that he can be an everyday on back where he's at right now. If he can do that and be that every down back that is needed, especially for our team, but I think we're looking for, quote unquote, the Joker. I think he could be that in free agency for us.
That's actually, I'm trying to remember. Did we both not like the Najee Harris pick when we went over the?
I agree. Yeah. That's one thing that I did say that, just because, that's just me personal, what I was thinking personally. But I'm also now thinking this as a business. Like, all right, here's the business. This is what the potential that could happen. And this is one move that I think that if Sean Payton thinks that Najee Harris can be that type of player, that can be that every down back, he's going to be there. And I think that he could definitely be there and do that for this team. The way that we currently have our zone blocking with our offensive line. If we do that, I think he can do that.
Braden, EG Big, thanks so much for joining the live. Sorry.
You're all good.
I just before we get going, Dreamweaver says all these vets wide receivers becoming available will hopefully allow us to get one for cheaper than we thought. And D-Rock says, Libre.
D-Rock, what's up? So no, with this year's free agency, the wide receiver position is so saturated right now, which is going to be crazy. So it's very possible, but because of so many of these guys being available, that yes, we could potentially get one of these good receivers um, for a good discount, which I'm excited about.
Agreed. Wide receiver. I am going to go with the home run hit, like really far fetched. I'm going to say he just got announced that he wants a trade from Seattle, DK Metcalf. I believe that if the Broncos can get a guy like Metcalf, somebody said it in, I don't know if it was in our chat or I read it somewhere. Somebody said it that I think it was I think it was Fanatic Dak. Matter of
Yeah,
fact, we just added to our chat, by the way. Fanatic Dak, mile
there he
high
is.
salute to you, my
Woo
friend. Thank
woo.
you so much for being a loyal supporter and fan of the show. He basically said if the Broncos go and get Dak and you put him and Cortland Sutton on the outside, then you can have Mims and Troy Franklin run the inside. And that would just be, I mean,
Whew.
fantastic. And I'm pretty
That would be
sure
awesome.
DK would love to play with Patrick Surtain instead of playing against him.
Right?
Libre, your pick.
If we can get Dak in a good, well, again, we're trading for his contract for this upcoming year as well. So if we can actually trade for him and get a good deal and say give up a fourth rounder for him, you know what? I will take it all day. Not only does he bring experience, he'll bring that wide receiver one I feel that we need on this team. Sutton, I love you, Sutton, but the thing is, I don't feel like you're a wide receiver one yet, or if you will ever be, but you'll be a great number two. And then, of course, we have Marvin Mims and Franklin right there in the slots, and I feel like this is going to be perfect to help out Bo Nix in his passing game this year.
I'm sorry, I missed your selection.
DK.
Oh, okay. So we're both riding
Yeah.
with DK.
Yeah. Right. That's the ideal right now. If we can get a good trade value for him, I would say let's do this.
For my number two, I mean, I'm stuck between Godwin and Stephon Diggs. Now, people were saying Devontae, but there's just something about Devontae that just doesn't sit right with me. I feel like Devontae's ego, if he's not with Aaron Rodgers, if you even seen the TV show or the documentary or whatever you want to call it, the series on Netflix called Wide Receiver, where you actually take a look at how Adams is on the field and off the field. Like off the field, he seems like a pretty chill guy, but on the field, like all those issues and stuff, like I don't. Like I just don't think that'll vibe well. I know if he does come to Denver, he'd more than likely want to come just to stick it to the Raiders. But I'm gonna have to go with Chris Godwin on this one because I think Chris Godwin's his injury does kind of worry me a little bit. But the only other option out there would probably be Amari Cooper, and Amari Cooper being traded to Buffalo didn't really do anything. So that to me was kind of a waste of a trade, if I'm being honest with you. So I'm gonna ride with Goodwin. You're
okay. I was actually, for me myself, talking about Amari Cooper. I think he would add a good veteran leadership that he has to coming into this team itself. Even though it did not work out there in Buffalo for him, I just think that wasn't the right system for him. So, and I've mentioned this before, you have to have these guys in the proper system in order for them to excel. And I felt like with Amari Cooper, that in Buffalo was not the proper system for him itself. I feel like if he comes in here to Denver, I think it is a more better fit for him and his style of play that will be able to get him to excel and be where he used to be.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly I can see that because when he was in the system with the Browns, he was really good, and then he just came over to the system in Buffalo, and it was like he was like a whole different person,
Yeah.
and not for the better, unfortunately. And Dreamweaver jumping in here and saying DK with Sutton would feed families. Diggs is a culture cancer.
Yep.
I'm actually starting to see that, so I believe it. D Rock saying, honestly, let's be honest. I don't see the organization spending money, so Cooper or Diggs would be ideal. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't. I have to disagree with you on this one, D Rock, because all the organization has done since the owners came in is spend money, whether it's dead cap money or if it means that it's going to guarantee a championship brought to Denver, the owners will not hesitate to move heaven and earth to get Sean Payton what he wants. It has to come from Sean Payton himself to say, hey, this is what I want. This is what they want to happen. Can I do it or not? That's literally what it's coming from. So I don't think it's about money because this team has spent more dead cap money than they've actually paid their players. That's just a hypothetical. It's not an actual fact. But I mean, I just don't see it. I just don't see it's because of spending money. All right. And we have one more year of the Russell Wilson on our books to prove it. Moving on to tight end. I don't see any tight ends on this list here, Libre. But so I'm just gonna go with the tight end if they do trade for one, and and that's going to be for David Njoku because I believe that David Njoku, and I have an idea who you're gonna pick, who would probably be my second. A guy like a David Njoku would be a great addition to the Broncos, just in case the Broncos can't find a tight end like that in the draft, or maybe they can. I don't know. But for me, if they were to trade for a tight end, I would like it to be Njoku.
So with free agency part itself, and because David Njoku is not, say, a free agent, we had to trade for him. So he's basically off my books himself. But I honestly don't see anybody in free agency. I'm looking at the list. I don't see any of these guys that are going to be here for our system. So I feel like we're going to be going after one of the two tight ends that are in the league or in the upcoming draft, which is going to be Warren out of Penn State and then Loveland out of Michigan.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're going to go with the draft pick?
Yep.
Cool. I mean, I don't have anything wrong with that. Again, if you can get a guy like that, and D-Rock said, didn't they extend Njoku? I didn't hear anything about an extension. They probably
You know what?
did.
I think they did. I think they did like a 2-year extension or something like that.
Let me Google it. It's a miracle I know how to spell Njoku. Doesn't say anything about an extension. No.
Let's see.
Yeah, I don't see anything about an extension. I know they wanted to extend Myles Garrett, but doesn't say anything here about no, it doesn't say anything. It just says that he wants Myles Garrett to stay with the Browns, but I don't see anything that says he got extended. D-Rock, I was saying, if we go tight end in the first round, who's our senior tight end to mentor the rookie? That's a good question. It's definitely not Carl.
No. Not at all.
It would have to be the current tight end one. What's his name?
Troutman.
Troutman, thank you. It would have to be him. I mean, there'd be no other choice.
Well, so I'm just looking into this as well. So with the Saints, because you're always going back to the Saints as well. So you're looking at
Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill. So you're looking at him. But again, if he becomes available and gets released, he has that connection with Sean Payton where we might bring Taysom Hill in as well. And he's that type of guy where you can use him at different positions, using him as a wildcat itself. So it's going to be that scenario only if he gets released from the Saints, where I know that Sean Payton is going to go in right away and start talking to him and say, hey, come on over to Denver. We have a spot for you.
I mean, yeah, I can see that. Let's go on to defensive tackle, which is a really, really interesting piece right here, Lee Ray, because it just got it wasn't leaked, but they were saying that Zach Allen is asking for an extension to because he wants to stay in Denver and more than likely finish his career in Denver when it's time. And the funny thing about that is, just yesterday, Draymond Jones was released by the Seahawks. So it's almost like a full circle. For those of you that don't know or don't remember, Draymond Jones left to go play in Seattle because Seattle offered him a much bigger paycheck. And no hard feelings. We in Broncos country said, hey, good luck to you. You're chasing the bag. You're not the first one to do it, and you definitely won't be the last one. Good luck to you. But then when he got to Seattle, he just got all arrogant and cocky and started talking smack about his time here in Denver, and it rubbed us the wrong way. And then management went out and got Zach Allen from the Cardinals, and that man has been nothing but a revelation. Zach Allen has done just like the number on his back, given it that much percent on the field, whether he's 100% or I think he only missed one game last year. And if it was up to him, he probably would have played it, even if he wasn't at 100%. But that's just the kind of beast and animal that Zach Allen is. And if you could find like a really good pairing to him, nothing against Fred Jones, but I just kind of think that if you wanted to upgrade from him, you couldn't go wrong. So I'm going to say right now the best available is Milton Williams from the Eagles.
The Eagles, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Milton Williams because that guy playing with Carter in that Vic Fangio defense, I mean, they completely destroyed Kansas City, and we need something like that to push the line. So Milton Williams is going to be my pick for defensive tackle. What do you say, Libre?
For me, defensive tackle, I still like DJ Jones. I liked what he did for us last year. I feel like we can come and bring him back in and let him run havoc. I think he just needs to have another year, and we just need to have another middle linebacker that's going to be there, that's going to be helping out, that will have these guys excel on that defensive tackle position.
So you don't want a defensive tackle?
No, because we'll bring back DJ Jones because DJ Jones is a free agent, so we'll bring him back.
Okay, so I'm just going to put in X. But if DJ Jones does come back, then you still get that point. Edge rusher. I mean, Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper have been really, really good at edge rusher. So if you do get an edge rusher, they would definitely be playing behind them. And to me, the guy that comes to mind is Josh Sweat again from the Eagles.
Yeah.
I mean, unless he's asking for an absurd amount of money, but if you could put him in a rotation with those guys, I mean, you could do no wrong. So Josh Sweat is gonna be my pick. What do you say, Libre?
So I think of two guys at this position right now. One, he's a younger kid who's just coming off of his rookie contract, and another one is who's been a veteran that's been in the league for a long time. So my first one is Chase Young. If we can go out there and get Chase Young, I think that would be a good deal for us as well. But then if you're going to go in for a veteran person to come in here and help out, Khalil Mack. I know he hasn't done much, He just ended his time there with the Chargers. But if you can get him in here, and if he can get a couple more serviceable years at the level he's been doing that, Khalil Mack will be that person.
I would not be mad with a Khalil Mack pickup.
No,
I honestly wouldn't, because that man still can go and get it. And even without him having Joey Bosa on the opposite side, that man was still a big threat. And
yeah,
he is going to, when he hangs it up, if he ever decides to be like an edge rush coach, he is going to really, really train some really lucky and talented guys, let me tell you. Offensive line. So we can pick any player from any part of the offensive line, Libra. It doesn't have to be a specific one. To me, the only part of the offensive line that really worries me is, well, actually, I should say two, is the center and the right tackle. Now, the right tackle, we can't really do anything about because they're paying him way too much money to even think about cutting or trading. So I'm just going to concentrate on center. Nothing against Wattenberg, but I just feel that in if you watch a lot of games, he just kind of gave, I don't know, it just wasn't there. So for me, if you can get another guy that can come in and just kind of, even if they don't have to take over the position, they can kind of just, light to start a competition or light a fire. Drew Dahlman, who's a 4th-round pick in 2021, is one of the high-rated free agency possible acquisitions. So if you bring a guy like Drew in, I think he was with the Raiders. I can't tell from his picture.
No, he was with the Falcons.
Falcons, thank you.
Yep.
So if you can bring a guy like Drew in and just start a competition, but Drew Dahlman would be my pick for offensive lineman.
My pick, I'm doing the exact same thing with the center position, but I'm actually going with Josh Myers. He was the guy with Green Bay Packers. What he was able to do there in Green Bay with Jordan Love, and you see how well Jordan Love was able to play this year. He did a really good job. And part of it starts with the center. You always have the game always starts with the center and the QB. It's how it's always done. And those two, I feel like they played really well together. But I feel that if anything, he can probably work well within this offensive line itself.
I actually know that name. I know I've heard Josh Myers during the season.
Yeah.
D-Rock jumping in saying, sorry, but draft Derek Harmon in the 1st round and let DJ walk. Respectfully.
That could happen as well, yeah.
Yeah, if they can go in there and bring a guy like him in, excuse me, they just re-signed, what was his name? The guy that they got from the UFL. I think he's a defensive tackle. I think his name's Deontay. Deontay. They just signed him, so he's going to be back with the Broncos for another year for like less than $1 million. I think it's like 900,000. And that guy played pretty good. When he was in the UFL, he was like one of the best pass rushers, if not the best. So, and he did pretty good last year in the Vance Joseph system. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Cornerback is next. So I really don't think that we need an upgrade. Again, I've talked to a lot of people who felt, that when Riley Moss came back after his injury, he got beat bad by T. Higgins. But you have to realize that that's the Bengals. The Bengals offense, when it clicks, is one of the most dangerous offenses in the NFL. The problem is they're not consistent. If they were consistent, they would have been in the playoffs. But when they can actually play like Joe Burrow plays, and Jamar and T. Higgins and all those guys, the only thing that's probably they don't. Well, actually, no, I take that back. They do have a good running game with Chase Brown after Joe Mixon left. So I don't think that the Broncos need to get a cornerback, but if they do, they can definitely get a rotation piece just in case to have around, in case one of those guys gets hurt again. Because we saw what the Broncos offense looks without Patrick Surtain, and we saw what it looks like without Riley Moss. So there's three names that come to mind, and that's Carlton Davis, Charvarius Ward, and DJ Reed. So if I had to pick one, I would probably go with DJ Reed, just for the simple fact that when he had a defensive-minded head coach, him and Sauce were really good corners. Problem is that the whole team went to hell, and the gameplay went down to hell with them. So, but I think that in a good defensive scheme like the one we run in Denver, I think that he could flourish.
Just talking about Riley Moss, I agree with you 100% with that. The only thing is like when he came back, that was his first game back, was going back into Cincinnati. So he was not in game shape. He wasn't ready to go. T. Higgins, he's been playing up like throughout the season up to that point. So he was ready to go. He was good, and he was not wasn't there in game form. So because of that, that's reason why he got burnt during that time frame, which I don't fault him. That's again coaching, whatever the case may be. But the thing is, like I mentioned, he was hurt. He came back from an injury after being off several weeks, and yes, he just happened to have a bad game. And even those last several games, you still have to build up to get to there. Prior to his injury, he was great. He was doing wonderful. And just now there in the offseason, he's going to be recovering. He's going to be doing rehab, whatever he needs to do. I feel like he's still going to be one of those top tier cornerbacks. Yeah, we have the best one on the opposite side. He's just there practicing with them right now. So I still feel with this, we don't need anybody. But if I was going to go and say if we have to pick someone, I would say go with Samuel Jr. from the Chargers. Asante Samuel Jr., so they go keep it young. Like I feel like if we can keep the team young, we're going to be relevant for years to come.
You know what? And like D-Rock said, I totally forgot about Big Play Slay. He is a free agent. The only problem is that Big Play Slay is going to want big play money.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have lots of Monopoly money that I can give them from my kids' assets. So
and as much as I said earlier that the Broncos offenses or management isn't afraid to spend money, they also need to be careful they don't waste it. So if it was something where like PS2, knock on wood, ever like got seriously hurt and he was going to be out for the year, kind of like what happened with Tank Dell, then yeah, I'd say like, hey, go spend some cash on, bringing Big Play Slay to Denver. But whatever team Big Play Slay goes to, it's definitely going to be a team that he's going to want to break the bank, kind of like Jalen Ramsey did.
Yeah.
Moving on, Libre, we're going to safety. Now, this can be either the starting safety or the free safety. And Javon Holland from the Dolphins, I think that if you could bring him in, he would. He already has chemistry with Brandon Johnson. Thank you, Brandon Johnson. So you bring him in, they already have chemistry and they already have experience playing together in Miami. So I think if you bring him in, that he would definitely be a nice upgrade and kind of light a fire because we are not all that convinced with PJ Locke, and we definitely don't want Key to come back because he was terrible last.
So we have actually a correction on the name. It's Brandon Jones, not Johnson. Brandon Jones.
Brandon.
Thank you. Thank you to my boy Sean Gray.
Yeah,
on TikTok.
I keep mistaking him with DJ Jones. So I know I do that a lot. So I do apologize. It is Brandon Jones. But yeah, Javon Holland is my pick for safety.
So if we're looking at a guy that if we can bring back in a fan favorite, Justin Simmons, but again, that's only because I do it from the heart. and I'm doing it because of that. But I know that that's not going to happen. I know that sale has shipped a long time ago when we let him go and so forth. But I agree with you as well. If we can get Javon Holland here, that would be the prize pick for our safety position that I think was lacking all of last season.
So just so I'm clear, do you want Javon Holland like I do, or
Yes, Javon Holland.
okay?
I'm just saying sentimental value, Justin Simmons, if he can come back. But I don't think that's going to happen because it's this coaching staff is the staff that let him go. So that's not going to happen. Bringing him back for any sentimental value for the team itself and for the fans, that's not going to happen because that's not how they look at it.
I mean, but nowadays, never say never. I mean,
I agree.
When Vance Joseph left, and if I would have told you he was going to come back as a defensive coordinator in the not too distant future, you would have laughed me out of the room, but yet here we are.
Here we are.
Just like Von Miller could come back to Denver, we talked about before.
Yeah.
Justin Simmons can come back to Denver, and I'm totally fine with that. But again, if he does come to Denver, the first thing I want him to do when he gets to that podium is I want him to apologize for telling us to F off.
But the thing is, it's like I agree with that 100%. I saw that video afterwards because I was there at the game. Mm-hmm. But I look at it as well. He's a competitive person that's out there, and he's no longer on that team that said that they just let him go and released him itself. I would have done the same thing as well, saying, you know what, they let me go, so F them. Let's go ahead. Let's go out there and kick their ass right now and do that. So I get that 100%, and I agree that Justin Simmons, the type of guy that he will come back out and say, you know what, guys, it's just a part of the competitive nature that I am. Here it is. I apologize, but you know what? I'm here for you guys. This is Broncos country.
I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I still can't let that go. I know me and Johnny went at it because we had difference of opinion before, but there's just something about it that I just can't let go, like the song says. And as we get to the 1 o'clock hour, we are at the last position, which is linebacker. Now, linebacker can be either in or out, Libre. It doesn't have to be one specific type. As I'm looking at this list here, I didn't even think about linebacker. And the first linebacker I see that comes to mind is Dre Greenlaw. So Dre Greenlaw, it says he missed most of 2024 after suffering a torn Achilles tendon in the previous Super Bowl. And the brief time he played, however, he looked like Dre Greenlaw, one of the game's most ferocious linebackers. And then the one like 2 picks down from him is Nick Bolton. Now, the Chiefs do have a bit of a cap salary problem, so they have to get rid of some players. That's why they traded Joe Thuney or he's going to be traded to the Bears. We haven't found out what the compensation was for that, but they got to get rid of some players because they can't afford to keep everybody. That's why it was so detrimental for them to win the Super Bowl. And thank God they didn't. But it says that three down linebackers are hard to find, and Bolton rarely took a snap off as a leader of Steve Spagnuolo's defense. Like the running back position, off-ball linebackers who can stay on the field could be recovering some market value. Now, we did talk about last week, Libre, about was it last week? I can't remember if it was last week or the week before, but we talked about this. We were talking about Alex Singleton possibly coming back. He could be released. We talked about Cody Barton, kind of just trying to be the replacement to him. And then again, Justin Sternad, that guy played like he was playing with a blindfold on some of the times. So I think inside linebacker is a position where the Broncos definitely need an upgrade. Now, unfortunately, Zach Bond got signed to a 3-year extension, so he is off the market. He will be staying in Philly, and would have been a nice dream to see if maybe Zach Bond would be in the orange and blue. But if I had to pick from one of those, I'm going to say Nick Bolton, just for the simple fact that, again, if he comes from a Steve Spagnuolo defense, he could really give some insight in terms of strengthening up that Broncos defense for that first matchup against the Chiefs.
Definitely I could see him being in that position itself to do that. but again, he's going to be that type of guy that's going to look for the paycheck as well. He was there in Kansas City. He's won a couple of championships, so he's going to be looking for that payday. And we all know that KC doesn't have that money to do that right now, because they have to be selective on who they pay. But I would actually take Greenlaw because what he did up until the time that he got injured, he was running havoc there with the 49ers. And if he can come back from his injury, even though he didn't play at all, or I don't know if he actually came in there at the end of the year or not, but if he can be where he was at, he's going to be a great pickup.
I haven't heard that name since, excuse me, since he actually got hurt. But I could have sworn I thought he played during the regular season last year. I didn't think he'd be out. He was out since the Super Bowl. That's kind of surprising to me. But maybe he was in and out. But I wouldn't be as long as I'm pretty sure if they did go after Greenlaw, he would have to pass one hell of a physical for them to even think about acquiring a guy like Dre.
Yeah,
but
but with any of these, doctors or physicians that are on each team, they are either getting the green light to pass somebody or to fail them. Like they could do whatever they need to do to pass them, to say, all right, you're good enough. Like, you have enough strength in that, in your ankle right now with your Achilles or in your knee, whatever, depending on the situation is. They're going to get either a green light or the red light to say, let's go with it. Like, we're going to go ahead and go with this. This is something we can work with. Or they're like, do we really want to take the risk with him or not? Like, we're not going to pass him on that. And if they have that type of risk of not wanting to sign someone, they're not going to even introduce it or even give it any play to say they're going to fail them. If they're really wanting someone to come in and come and play, they're going to give them the green light and say pass them with that physical.
I agree, as long as it's something where it's not he's not chasing the bag, because I feel like a player like Dre Greenlaw, he's, again, just like it said, when he was healthy, he was hell on earth, or whatever the saying goes. But when he got hurt, especially that type of injury, that can be quite concerning. So as long as he passes a physical and it's like, okay, it's guaranteed that they're going to get the Dre that they saw with the 49ers, then I'm all for it. But again, ladies and gentlemen, as we get ready to wrap up this segment before we head into OT, you have to understand that every single person we named, whether they're actual free agents or in the hypothetical, in one, I think it was in Joku where I said that, they'd have to trade for him, which is still part of the free agency period, because technically you have to wait until the new year starts before you can trade. So you have until the start of the new league year, all the way up until week 9-ish, around there, when the trade window closes. So anything can happen. And I don't know why, Libre, but I just get this feeling that the second you mentioned it earlier before we went live, that on Monday they can start making deals between players and teams, and then that deal is going to be, it's not set in stone, so it'll just be on being ready for when Wednesday at 3:30 Central the league year officially opens, and then we get to see if those contracts are actually honored and those players go to those set teams. If teams trade, could be picks, could be, picking up of contracts. I mean, it is going to be crazy, Libre. Your thoughts?
No, I agree. And I think I say this every year for myself as well, that, free agency is one of those times of years where it's crazy, because these top tier players leaving one team, going to other teams. And like I said earlier in the show, that this is one of the best times to or the year for the NFL, and best for the NFL as well, because this is the only time that true teams are looking for great players and all that. And then it's also that any given team is going to be able to be competitive the following year. I gave that example with the Commanders. The Commanders were really bad last year, and then look what they were able to do this last season itself. Prior to that, they came to one of the worst teams of the leagues to going to the NFC Championship game, and that's why I love the NFL, the salary cap part of it itself, where the teams are not going over the cap and being penalized with the luxury tax and whatnot. So this is what I love about the NFL. You have to actually go with the salary cap in order for it to work properly, and for the league to have a competitive team and so forth, unlike the NBA, unlike baseball. So I'm excited for it. I can't wait to see all these other names that are going to be coming out here in the next couple of days leading up until Monday, the players that are to be released, because our list that we have right now could be totally changed come Monday itself, when we're like, oh shoot, like now I changed my mind. We should be going after this guy.
Agreed. Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached 1 hour mark, so it is now time for Libre and us to sit down and go into some overtime. For those of you that have never seen this segment before, this is where Libre and I can kind of let loose and just talk about whatever is on our mind. If we can run it related to the Broncos, all the better, but it is not guaranteed. So I just wanted to start off this portion of today's overtime segment with, and also, guys, feel free to, say in the chat if there's anything on your mind as well. Colorado sports. You'll have to kind of relegate. I've never seen this name before, but Seb Locks Hood Tails. My high salute to you, my friend. If you can just kind of explain a little bit more about what it is about Colorado sports, then I can answer your inquisition a whole lot better. But to what I was saying, so some of you guys know my full-time job is I work in a hotel. So I was standing there, I was talking to my one of my best friends. His name is Rashard. And we're just having having a conversation. He works at the front desk. I was off the clock. I was just, cause sometimes I like to hang around and just talk with the guys while I have a moment. And then this lady comes up, and I'm wearing my hoodie, and I don't have my scarf, but I have my Broncos scarf on because I always, rock my Broncos gear. And she was like, "Yeah, go Broncos." And I was like, "Oh, that's great. Like, hey, I have a podcast you should watch and follow." And then she just like, "Oh no, I just I don't watch football. I just want to say go Broncos." And I'm like, "Who the like
what?
I don't get it, Libre. Why would you why?"
I see it all the time too here in Denver as well, which is crazy. But you know what? It's somebody that's just there that sees somebody that has in their sports attire on, that just wants to make conversation, want to make you happy, showing you support, that you're supporting your favorite team, even though that you're not in Denver. So even though they may not like sports whatsoever, but it's just like a compliment, I think, to give to you, like, oh, all right, go Broncos, go. Yeah, I know it's weird, but it's like saying, hey, you're supporting your team. Let's go. I love that you're here in a different city and you're still supporting your team. And I feel like that's when you were just saying that. That's what I think of hearing that itself.
I didn't. I mean, at first I did, because I was like, hey, Broncos fan,
right?
You should watch, because that's how most of my conversations always go, which it reminded me I really need to get business cards. I talked to Johnny about it. We're still working on it, but we're working on a design so I can start handing out business cards to not just people I work with, but also Uber passengers that they have, they would start asking me questions about football and whatnot. But if that was a compliment, I'll take it. But I myself didn't take it. I was so confused, and I was telling my best friend, I was like, "You heard what I heard, right?" He just started laughing. He's a Bears fan, so he's like, "Bro, I don't even know what to make of that." It was just crazy. D-Rock jumping in here, and he's saying, "L.A. Lucas, clap, clap, clap."
We don't talk about Luca.
If I'm not mistaken, Libre is a Nuggets fan and I'm a Bulls fan. So
Yeah.
right now we're heartbroken here in Chicago because one of our players is out for the season. I think he tore his like ACL or it was a pretty big injury. So unfortunately, I mean the Broncos, the Bulls' chance weren't all that great, maybe not even good, but they were still riding that high of when they beat the Nuggets. So
Well, that's you know what? If that's their only highlight for the year, they just won the championship. Just beat the Nuggets. And the sad thing about it is, Baki was in the house with it.
yeah, he jinxed it.
He did.
Sevlox, I believe he's asking me or us, what city are you from? So basically, I live in Chicago. Libre is the only person, if I'm not mistaken, out of both networks that actually lives in Denver.
The
None of
Mile
us
High City, brother.
live in Denver. We've been to Denver, but none of us live in Denver, which is probably like the most ironic thing ever.
Right?
However, it is what makes us very unique because even though we don't live in the same city, we all have the exact same love for this team, which just goes to show you.
Yeah.
And it's something that I tell a lot of people that I meet, especially here in Chicago, who always seem to get upset when they see me rocking Broncos gear. And then they always say the one stupid thing that everybody says: "Oh, you don't live in Denver. Why are you wearing Broncos?" And I was like, do you realize that there are Bears fans in Denver? There are
Mhm.
Bears fans all over the world. Just like there are fans of different teams. That's why when away teams come here, their fans are already living here.
Yeah.
Like, yes, there are some fans that actually travel with their respective teams, and kudos to them. They must have really good paying jobs to do so. But it's just like it makes me just want to.
That's when you go up on that top rope and lay it to smack it down with that elbow. Let's go. Just do it.
Gotta hit him with the five knuckle shuffle. You know what I'm saying? He can't
You
see
can't
me.
see me.
uh, Instead of like saying, "Why are you a Broncos fan?" Uh, so long story short, I think I'm pretty sure I've told this story on this show before, but I'll try to give a quick recap of it. Uh, when I was younger, because I'm old now, but when I was younger, I used to watch The Simpsons a lot, like religiously, like every single
Oh yeah.
episode, like all the episodes from the 90s. I can almost quote to you like word by word because I saw it so many times. So one day in one episode, they actually made fun of the Broncos. It was the episode where Homer went and got a different job and he went to go work for this guy named Hank Scorpio. So and Hank asked him like, "What is your dream?" Like, and Homer told him like, "Well, my dream is to one day own the Dallas Cowboys." So fast forward to the end of the episode, Hank Scorpio turned out to be like this rich supervillain who's trying to take over the world. And when Homer moves back into his old house, Hank Scorpio sends him a present. And the present says it's not exactly the Dallas Cowboys, but it's a start. And when the camera pans out, it's a bunch of players from the Broncos. And basically the Simpsons were making a joke that the Broncos were the team that was good enough to get to the Super Bowl because they went to 4 Super Bowls in the 80s, but in each one of those they got blown the frick out. They
Yep.
lost every one of those games by a landslide. And it was embarrassing. So that was the running joke. Ironically, that was the same year that the Broncos won their first championship. They won it in 97. I started watching the Broncos in 98. My very first Broncos game that I saw was actually the Super Bowl where they played the Falcons. And when I fell in love with John Elway, to my unfortunate luck, that was his last year. And the following year, he retired. But I started watching football anyway. This was before YouTube and all that stuff, where I
Mm-hmm.
actually had to go to like the library, or I went to a friend's house who had that. I forgot. I don't know if it was the NFL channel where you could watch like the throwback games. He had some of the tapes that the Broncos played because his dad was a fan. So like I would just sit there and watch and learn all about uh, I was gonna say Champion League, Shannon Sharp, Stink, all those guys. John Elway is, especially John Elway. He's the one I watched the most, and he is the reason why I became a Broncos fan all these years later. So on my jersey's custom made. It doesn't have the name of any Broncos player. It has my nickname, which is Big Show, because that's what people have called me all my life. And it's got the number 98 on it because that was the year I became a fan. So, Leroy, I don't know if you want to tell your side of the story.
Well, me growing up here in Colorado. So I was a young kid, early 80s, coming in and learning about football. Of course, it's the Broncos here in town. So me just following with the Broncos. And then what was nice is that I lived up north, which is Loveland, Fort Collins area. And during that time, the Broncos training camp was in Greeley, which is about 20, 25 minutes away. So my uncle would take me and my cousins over to Dove Valley, watch training camp. And this is the time when they stayed there on campus up in Greeley at UNC. And you were literally right next to the players. You have a lot more access to these players. So I got to meet John Elway. I got to meet Shannon Sharp. I got to meet Terrell Davis, all these greats. Even in the early 80s, like Vance Johnson, like the Three Amigos, Vance Johnson, Ricky Nattil, Mark Jackson. So being able to be that close to the Broncos, and just because I was already here in town, I just had that love already and growing for them, seeing them week in and week out. And it just grew from there. So, and that's how my passion for football itself also grew, wanting to play and do all that. And, just being here in town, and it's the hometown team. And how could you not love the team that has orange and blue? Like, I just love it.
I mean, me personally, and Seb Locke saying Broncos country is everywhere. We got fans in all cities. It's not surprising. Definitely right, my friend.
Yes,
and he
sir.
also goes on to saying there's a fan chapter in the Windy City called Broncos Country Chi-Town.
Yep.
I've never actually heard of them, but I will definitely look them up and see what they're all about. I appreciate the question and the comments, Seb Locke. Thank you so much. Your name cracks me up, though, Hood Tales. But me personally, I never actually met any of those alumni players. I would probably faint if I ever met John Elway, and the whole city of Denver will probably feel the earthquake from my body hitting the ground. The only Broncos player I ever met was the one I met just last year when he was there taking pictures with everybody, which was Carl Mecklenburg.
Carl Mecklenburg, number 77. Yeah.
Number 77, yeah, Hall of Famer.
So let me tell you a story about like how you'd be fangirling. So one of my good friends that I have here, he's about, I'll say about 10 years younger than I am. I met him at my old job where we're working at this restaurant, and his favorite player of all time is Steve Atwater. So several years ago, the first year that we got Russell Wilson, and we went and that very first week they played in Seattle. So I actually went to that game and I was able to meet Steve Atwater. Let me see, do I have the picture? Yeah. So it's just right up here. So I got so there's Steve Atwater, and then also there's Carl Mecklenburg right there. And then I have one's right up here, which is Cortland Sutton, and then Justin Simmons. And so going back to the story itself with Steve Atwater, I've met these guys. I don't get like shocked meeting these guys. To me, they're just normal, regular people all the time. So we're at tailgating, and Steve Atwater was walking through the tailgate, and my buddy was with me. And I was like, "Oh, what's up, Steve?" And then I shook his hand. My buddy, like, fangirled so bad. Like, he couldn't even speak to him. He couldn't say hi because he's meeting his idol. And he was like, I go, "Oh, Steve, this is my buddy Kit. He's a huge fan of yours since your playing career and so forth. You're his favorite player." And then he, like, finally shook his hand, and he was like, hi, Steve. It was hilarious. So to the day, I still mess with him, and so forth. I go, "Remember that day you fangirled over Steve Atwater? Come on." It was hilarious. But yeah, but for me, like these guys are just normal guys. And it's crazy too. Like with Quinn Miners, like he's one of my favorite NFL player right now. You know, he's an offensive lineman. He's me and him, we chat all the time on Instagram. There was a time, what was it, 2 years ago? He actually sent me a message saying, "Hey," he goes, "Hey, my guy, let me know when you're at the tailgate at the training camp, and I'll come over and get a picture with you." And I have a picture right here. I have a picture with him right here.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and it's like these guys are so cool, like, and they're so personable. And it's like they're just normal people, you know. They just happen to have this freaking awesome jobs that pay them super, like a lot, but they're just normal people, you know. And that's how I look at them. And I feel like when I'm around these guys, like they don't do anything for me. So when you say you fangirl and you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna faint with Elway," blah blah blah, like I think it's hilarious and funny, but I'll clown you when it happens all the time.
You won't have to clown me because, like I said, you'll feel it. I know, I know. I mean, maybe I'm always hopeful that when I'm walking, that's why sometimes I'm walking around the stadium, because my nephew last time asked me, he's like, "Hey, how come we're walking around the entire stadium?" I'm like, "Because you never know, like maybe Shannon Sharp or John Elway will be walking in and you just happen to run into him, you know."
And you know, now with the alumni, like it's almost a guaranteed, like if they're there for the game itself, you're gonna bump into them, and they're just walking within the regular crowd. They don't have security, they don't have all that. They're just walking around. Like with Orlando Franklin, like I've met Orlando Franklin as well. Like there's just so many players that you just happen to that come around to tailgates and so forth, which is ridiculous. Like you don't think that it happens, and it does. Like Eddie McCaffrey, we're talking about the time that you started watching the Broncos. There's Eddie McCaffrey, he's done it as well. So whenever you come to a game and so forth, and if you're tailgating, you're in the right spot, guaranteed you're gonna bump into former players.
I'm telling you, like when I go see, I don't know which game I'm gonna go to. I know I told you last week that I was trying to go to the season opener, and that's still my target. But if I don't make it for that one, it'll definitely be a home game, because I'm trying to go to a home game every season at least. So hopefully, you know, and maybe, just maybe, we can probably do what Johnny and Isaiah did, I think 2 years ago when they were at the Patriots game, where we can do a live cast from the tailgate before the game. I know, I think it was Ty and who was it? Oh, he's gonna kick my ass. Who they were live streaming from the Jets game last year. But then they had a great time, and yeah. I think it was Kevin.
You know, whatever the case may be, whatever game you decide to do, we can set that up and have a live cast of the game. I'm going to be having tailgate set up all season long. If we happen to do the very first one of the year, if you happen to come to that one, I'm going to have the fan group from Mexico up for that game. They've already told me that they're going to come up for that game. So we're going to already have a huge tailgate for that one. So anybody out here in Broncos country, if you are here in Denver for that first game, please reach out to me if you want more information about the tailgate. I'll be more than happy to give you all the information that you need. But we throw a big party. We have lots of food, lots of drinks. And we are, my tailgate itself is sponsored by Breckenridge Distillery. So we'll have some Libre Punch.
And Sev Locks also says, "Salute, guys. I'm a content creator that does Denver history. My channel is also all about Broncos country. I just subbed to you guys. Go Broncos." Well, thank you so much, Sev. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And make sure you guys join Sev in hitting that subscribe button, so you guys are, always up to date on any and all things that we do and talk about here on this show. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to wrap it up. I know it's a little bit earlier than we normally do, but I always hate to keep Libre away from dinner. So, guys, just to kind of quick recap, we'd like to thank everybody that was in our chat today. D-Rock, Sevlock, I know Dreamweaver was here earlier.
And my boy Sean Gray, who was on TikTok as well.
Yeah. Thanks to you to everybody on the TikTok. for watching us. Steve, Juan, Peyton, Lath, all the people that joined, Dylan, Fabio, Tom, Robin, Rickson, Solo, Toby, just to name a few. And to all you guys, quick reminder to please make sure you hit that subscribe button and follow us here on the Orange and Blue Network, just like Sevlox did. Subscribe, share, comment, and like so we can be with you guys and know that the content we are providing for you is always up to your liking. Also, MHRT Network subscribers, please, people, subscribe to the MHRT Network, subscribe, share, comment, and like on their shows as well. Also, shout out to Dubby for being a sponsor of today's show. Also, quick like to remind you that you can use the code NRWOB10 to get 10% off at checkout when you get your excuse me, when you get your favorite flavors at checkout. Again, NRWOB10 for your 10% off. Shout out to Dubby for being a sponsor of all the shows here on the Orange and Blue Network, as well as the Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue crew for hooking you up with 10% off. Also, ladies and gentlemen, just a quick recap before we get out of here. This was part 1 of 2 of our prediction episode. So we gave our predictions on who we thought the Broncos were going to pick. So make sure you guys tune in next Wednesday to hear our reaction to see if Libre or I, who was closest and who wins the contest, because we didn't bet on anything, but Libre, if I win, I want some tacos when I come see you, bro.
You know what? I can guarantee you'll get some tacos no matter what.
So that's what's on the line, ladies and gentlemen. Tacos are on the line. For our audio listeners, please make sure to give us 5-star reviews. Hit that notification, subscribe button so you are up to date whenever these episodes go up. Please make sure you screen share, excuse me, and send us a screenshot of it at our socials. My Twitter is at a 6'10" Mexican. Bronco Libre is at Bronco Libre 5280. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here. Also, remember that we will be back this Friday for Viva los Broncos, which is both on both networks. But please remember that it is an all Spanish podcast. So if you join and you see Libre and I talking in what sounds like tongues, just know it's in Spanish. And unless you have a translator handy, if you just want to come by and show your support, you're all the more welcome. But just to let you know, it's an all Spanish podcast. So we will see you on Friday. Ladies and gentlemen, he's Bronco Libre. I'm Adan Diaz, and this has been Broncos Talk on the Orange and Blue and MHRT networks. We say so long, good night, everybody, and as always, go Broncos!
Go Broncos! Let's go!
Woo!